Welcome to Viewpoint on ILTV, where we bring you leading voices in the Middle East and beyond. In this special, we're taking you inside the Israel-Gaza war to hear from stakeholders, thought leaders, and decision makers. I'm Emily Schrader, and today we're speaking with Israeli Arab activist and CEO of Together Vouch for Each Other, Yoseph Haddad. Since October 7th, Yoseph has become a leading voice in the state of Israel for partnership between Arabs and Jews, and has spoken all over the world in defense of Israel, dispelling the disinformation that's plagued this war. A former IDF commander who was critically injured in Lebanon, Yoseph has dedicated his life to improving Israeli society internally, while also improving Israel's image externally. Incidentally, I should also add that Yoseph also happens to be my fiancé. Yoseph, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks for coming on the program.
What an opening.
Yes. So I wanted to start by asking you, how did you get to where you are today? You know, as an Arab Israeli citizen, what motivated you to speak out for your country?
I think one of the things that I saw in our society is the fact that there is some sort of a disconnect between the Arab Israeli society and the Jewish Israeli society. Now, I was born and grew up in the Arab Israeli society, but I'm also part of the Israeli society, and I had Jewish friends since I was a child. So I got to see the two societies, and then realizing that we have more things in common than things that are not in common. And from that point, I said it's all about making that connection and bringing the stories and the reality that there is in the Jewish society and in the Arab society, in the Israeli society. And when I saw that the world is literally just lying about what's going on, I had to do something about it. And this is exactly what I decided to do, which is to show the reality and the truth about the state of Israel from the point of view of an Arab Israeli citizen.
Now, what repercussions have you faced as a result of much of your activism? I know there have been several incidents, even in recent months, in which you were assaulted, even in one case physically. What other repercussions have you faced as a result of what you're doing?
Well, to be honest with you, Emily, you know that very well, and also you know that very well on yourself, because you're also targeted by anti-Israelis and especially IRGC supporters who they wish to see you dead. Kind of like this, Hamas and Hezbollah and anti-Israeli extremists wish to see me dead as well, because they do not know how to handle the fact that I am only presenting the truth and the reality and the facts. And because they don't know how to handle the facts, the only way that they can handle me is by threatening me, intimidating me, targeting me, and physically attacking me and attacking my family. Emily, I mean, you were there when it happened in New York, when in Colombia I was attacked by literally terror supporters. They were with Hamas symbols and
we'll get to the protests later, but yes.
And of course there was the attack on my family when my mom broke her hand, because literally they attacked my family because of my activity. That's it, nothing else.
There have been a few incidents amongst the actual Palestinian terror groups in which they've spoken about you. You, in particular, as an Arab Israeli, seem to really irritate them in, I would say, the best ways. Can you describe some of those examples? I know the Gaza Now group on Telegram was posting about you.
Oh, the Gaza Now Telegram channel is one of the best. It was because when it happened at the beginning of the 7th of October, you know, the war of the 7th of October. And they saw, we should say that Gaza Now is run by Hamas. This is a Hamas channel. And they saw my impact on the Israeli society and on the world as well, because I'm bringing a different perspective and a different point of view. But they were actually frightened from how an Arab Israeli is managing to impact the Jewish society and an Israeli society in general, and of course of how I'm actually managing to change the minds of Arabs in Israel. Because since the 7th of October, more and more Arab Israelis are following my work and actually supporting my work. So when they saw this, they could not stay silent, and they thought that they could do something. So what they then presented is that they uploaded a story about me where they said that, and they put my photo, yeah? And they didn't even say my name. They just said, this guy with the photo of mine, he was one of the orchestrators of the 7th of October. The idea was to make a mess between me and the Israeli society. It backfired at them within 20 minutes. The entire Israeli society just laughing at them, which eventually led to them to delete that. But you see how they lie? You see in what twisted ways they want to show their case? That's why I'm fighting them, because they are disgusting liars, no more than that, and terror supporters.
Now, turning to something a little bit more serious, October 7th, I wanted to ask you how that day and the subsequent events have impacted you as an Arab Israeli, as a member of Israel's minority community here. How did that affect you, and how did that affect the community that you've seen in the aftermath of October 7th?
For me, the 7th of October is for a lot of people, actually. I think it's unfortunately safe to say that it is the worst disaster that the state of Israel saw since 1948. But the thing is, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised by the level of the attack and the disaster. And in fact, I've spoken about it many times before, unfortunately, when I say that if we do not speak the language of the Middle East to the terrorists and their supporters, we're going to pay. And as long as we're pushing it, the payment is going to be even bigger and bigger. And then the 7th of October came. So for me, I wasn't surprised. Did it change anything? Yes, it made me more of a fighter, more wanting to show the reality of Israel and to expose the lies of the terrorist organization Hamas, and to expose the lies of the terrorist organization Hezbollah, and as you exactly know, even better than me, the lies of the Iranian regime. That's when it comes to me. It made me even more motivated. I really take it personally. Because I take it personally because they're using the fact that there are Arab Israelis and they're using us to promote their own propaganda and their own agenda, and I cannot allow it. Now, as for the Arab Israelis, I can tell you a story that I think will define a lot of Arab Israelis on the 7th of October, at least on the way we are thinking. When Hamas attacked Israel, and they themselves broadcasted the videos, they are the ones who spread it on the social media. But the thing is, the Arab Israelis were among the first to see this because it was on the Arab social media. While on TV they were talking about 20 deaths, 30 deaths, I've already known that we have 400, 500, and 600, unfortunately, and that the atrocities is unmanageable, really. Just like me, the Arab Israeli society as well. And if I have to put on one call that was very unbelievable, it was the call that I got at 3 p.m. at the day of the 7th of October, when an Arab Israeli from Nazareth gave me a call. Usually, he would call me to curse me, to incite against me, to threaten me. And of course, I wouldn't answer him anymore, but that's what usually he was doing. On the 7th of October at 3 p.m., he tried to call me. I did not answer. Then he sent me a message saying to me, listen, it's not what you think. Please respond. I'm a curious person, so I did answer him. And the first sentence he said to me, listen, I got it. And I should say, according to the Israeli police, only after 50 hours we managed to gain control over the southern of Israel. 50 hours. Which means when he called me, it was only 9 hours after the first attack. Which in our mind, we know and we think that Hamas is occupying the south and managing to actually destroy everything there, which up until 50 hours, that was the case. He saw that and he said to me, listen, I don't want to live under a terrorist organization authority. I don't. And despite the fact that he was against me, he said, I want to be under the Israeli authority. I think this story tells a lot about even the extremists in the Arab Israeli society. And in general, the Arab Israeli society in general, put the extremists aside, are condemning Hamas, are against Hamas. And don't let anybody fool you. Don't let anybody think that the Arab Israelis are standing with Hamas. We condemn them. We hate them. They're disgusting. They're filthy terrorists. That's what exactly the majority of Arab Israelis think about Hamas. So please, make no mistake, I'm saying it not only to the anti-Israelis, but actually this message is more to the Israelis and to the Jewish communities around the world, to understand that Arab Israelis helped Israelis being saved on the 7th of October. Arab Israelis were massacred and brutal and were kidnapped and raped and killed and murdered. We're in the same boat, and people need to understand that. And the heroes of Israel, from the 7th of October, you have heroes, Jews and Arabs, and people need to know that there are heroes from the Arab Israeli community and there are heroes from the Jewish Israeli community. That's what we need to put more focus on it. Yes, Israel is a Jewish and democratic state, but in Israel you have 20% of the population are Arab Israelis. I'm one of them. There are problems here. I'm not saying Israel is perfect. In fact, there's no such thing as a perfect country in the world. And racism and discrimination exist everywhere. But if we only point at the bad things that you have, so point at the bad things in every place in the world, you will only see the bad things. But there are good things in this country, and we need also to point at those good things, and that's exactly what I want to do.
That's actually a nice transition into my next question, which was about the media coverage that we've seen internationally. We're 10 months in, and we continue to see mainstream international news sources whitewashing terrorism. I mean, how Reuters reported the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, calling him a moderate, and several others have followed suit. CNN did the same thing. We also have seen them repeatedly citing Hamas talking points, Hamas data, statistics in terms of casualty counts that we simply don't know. What is the best way to deal with this? What can be done?
First of all, when there are journalists who categorize or trying to draw a picture where any member of Hamas is moderate, is itself the biggest problem. We are talking about a terrorist organization that seek to kill Jews and Arabs just because they are Israelis. A terrorist organization would want to destroy the state of Israel because just it exists and it's a Jewish state. This is in their core principles. So any idiot, ahbal I call it in Arabic, any ahbal who wants to talk about a leader from Hamas that is moderate, then he doesn't understand that he's dealing with terrorists. And therefore you are just an ahbal. There is no other definition to it. Ahbal is an idiot. Therefore, I not only condemn those people, I laugh at them. I laugh at them because they have no idea what they're talking about, or they're biased and they have to spread the propaganda of Hamas. Take, for instance, you spoke to me about BBC, about Reuters. We've seen how they are biased against Israel. We've seen the headlines. We just saw what happened in Majd al-Shams. You know, when Israel and when the IDF targeted with precision a terrorist, and because of the fact that that terrorist is using the Palestinians, the Gazans, as human shields and hide among them in a populated area and residential areas, and this is not me saying it, oh, Yoseph, Hasbara activist. The Palestinians themselves are saying them. Yep. The leaders of the Palestinians, the Gazans themselves, are actually cursing. One of the best interviews that were in Al Jazeera is when Al Jazeera journalist comes to interview a person from Gaza. And the second the person from Gaza was in the hospital, the Shifa hospital, and the second that person started talking about Hamas and how they hide among them, he literally just turned the camera and the mic from him, and the person is from behind, the Gazans is from behind saying, where are you going? I'm not done talking. Because they want to hide the fact that they're hiding among people. So when you see something like this, and when IDF attacks them, you see the entire world headlines. Oh, IDF strikes, kills babies, kills kids, kills this, despite the fact that our target was terrorists who was using babies and using innocent lives as human shield. In Israel, Hezbollah targeted Majd al-Shams, murdered 12 innocent Arab kids from the Druze village, Majd al-Shams. And what was the headlines? 12 citizens killed, not even mentioning, not killed.
In some cases, like the BBC, they didn't even report that. They simply reported Israel's response.
Do you remember even opening the TV and going through every channel, CNN, BBC, all those channels, and what did we find? They're talking about golf, Olympics. None of them are actually breaking the news and talking about the fact that Israel just lost 12 of its citizens, and they were kids by a Hezbollah rocket, who was the what? Missile from Iran. See, this is the biased media that we are dealing with. And the way that we can deal with it is, I know it's tough, especially after 10 months from the beginning of the war, and everybody is really exhausted, not only just physically, but mentally, yeah? I know it's hard, but we don't have any choice. So every voice counts. So even if you think that you the person with like 5 followers or 100 followers, and you think, oh, I don't have much of an influence. No, you do. If you share, if you like, if you post, if you comment, if you put an Israeli flag, if you report an anti-Israeli and post that lies and present twisted facts, trust me, it helps. Any voice counts. So please be part of it. We need you all. They're already outnumbering us. So anything you can do, anyone that can do, please do it.
So I wanted to ask you some of the ways in which the anti-Israel movement has actually been successful in demonizing the state of Israel is through the perversion of language. 3 terms in particular come to mind. I'm sure you've heard of them many times: apartheid, ethnic cleansing, and of course genocide, especially in reference to what's happening in Gaza right now. I'm wondering what your response is to the really abuse of these 3 words as it pertains to the Israeli-Arab conflict. I guess we'll start with genocide, since you yourself are an Arab Israeli.
You know what? We can take all those 3 definitions and explain one thing about them. We know that Israel is not an apartheid state. We know that there is no ethnic cleansing, and we know that there is no genocide. And in fact, if we wanted to do genocide, it's the easiest decision, because then we don't need to put any troops in jeopardy. And then the only one thing that you can do is just hover above Gaza and wipe it and make it a parking lot. But we're not doing that, because we don't want to commit genocide, and we don't want to do ethnic cleansing, and we are not an apartheid state. Now, the question is, so why? Why are they using those definitions to describe the state of Israel? And who is using it? My dad taught me a really important lesson in life. He said, Yosef, if you want to solve a problem, 50% of solving that problem is pointing at that problem. Once you pointed at that problem, 50% you've already passed. And then the next 50% is to find solutions from both sides, the common, and solve that problem. When you make a problem that does not exist, it's because you don't want to solve the problem. And the bigger problem is the conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians. So how you can solve a problem that does not exist? And why do you keep talking or bringing this talking point when that doesn't even exist? Why? Follow the money. Those anti-Israeli organizations that work against Israel, if tomorrow there is peace between Israel and Palestine, they're done. And this is what I actually hope for myself. I really wish that tomorrow there is no need for me to do hasbara and to explain about Israel. I wish. It means that finally we have peace here. And I don't need to expose the liars. But the problem is, Emily, they don't want to solve. They want to maintain that conflict, so they create illusions and problems that does not exist. I'm an Arab Israeli ex-IDF commander. I was a commander over Jewish soldiers, and those Jewish soldiers must obey my commands. In an apartheid regime, something like this cannot happen. Further than that, we have Arab judges in the Supreme Court. One of them, a former Arab judge by the name of Salim Jubran, Arab Israeli who was on the team that sent to prison a Jewish prime minister and a Jewish president, Moshe Katsav and Ehud Olmert. Everybody did their mistakes and their crimes, so they were sentenced. As a democracy, you know, that's what we are. But on top of that, it was an Arab citizen of Israel that sent a Jewish citizen of Israel, which was a prime minister and a president, to jail. And then you come and tell me apartheid? And the examples are there. Just look at it. Search. See. You know, you talk about apartheid. We are 20% of the population, but we are 30% of the doctors, the Arab Israelis. 50% of the pharmacists, Arab Israelis. Up until a few months ago, our captain in football team, soccer team, it was Bibras Nadkhol, a Muslim. A Muslim was our captain for years and years. In an apartheid state, such as for former, what happened in South Africa, when the rugby New Zealand team came to play against South Africa, they had one black team member. He wasn't allowed to enter South Africa because he was black. That's apartheid. So in fact, it's a shame when people are describing Israel as an apartheid state. It's an insult to the real South African from the black community who suffered from real apartheid. Genocide? Are you kidding me? Ethnic cleansing? Don't even ask me, ask the Statistic Palestinian Office. the official one. If you go and break down to villages, not territories, leave territories, villages of Palestine and cities of Palestine, you will see that since the 1948, since the beginning of the State of Israel until today, there is not even one village, one Palestinian village that has decrease in population, only increase. If there's a genocide, ethnic cleansing, we should have seen reduction. Do you know what is genocide? This is what happened to the Jews during the Holocaust. Prior to the Holocaust, there were 9.5 million Jews in Europe. After the Holocaust, you had 3.5. It's a simple math problem. 9.5 minus 3.5, you have 6 million Jews murdered during the Holocaust. This is genocide. So cut the bullshit. That's what I have to say to those anti-Israelis.
I wanted to ask you, when it comes to this war, we're 10 months into it, what does victory look like? How can Israel actually win this war?
You know something? I refuse to use the word victory and win. And I refuse to use that because we lost so many lives of Israelis, Arabs and Jews. Today we mark the 300th day of 115 hostages kidnapped in Gaza, living in conditions that nobody wished to even your enemies. I refuse to say good morning and good evening because they don't have any good morning or any good evening. We don't know what's going on with our hostages. It doesn't matter what we will do. I will never call it a win, but there's a different definition. And that different definition is we need to show and to make sure that everybody knows that we are with strength, determined, with power in the Middle East. And the way that we can achieve that, because winning, there's no win. But we can achieve and bring back our determination, bring back our strength, is one, by making sure that our hostages are back home, because we show everybody that we never forget any citizen. And this is the contract between us, between the State of Israel and us, the civilians, the citizens. And the contract that says, you messed up. You allowed Hamas to invade Israel. You allowed them to butcher us, to massacre us, to burn entire families alive, to rape our women, to kidnap our women and our men and our children and the elderly and the sick. You allowed it. Now your job as a state is to make sure to bring them back. That will show also power. At the same time, we cannot not target terrorists and talk to them in the language of the Middle East. I call it speaking Arabic to our enemies. And speaking Arabic, Emily, not marhaba shul akhbar kif al-hal. Speaking Arabic is to talk to the terrorists and their supporters with power and more power and more power.
Maybe
that's the language, and maybe a little bit more
Persian too.
and a little Persian, that's for sure. But this is what we need to do. When we together are focused on the hostages, and the fact is that we're with strength against our enemies, this is the way that we can bring Israel to the map of the Middle East, to where in 1967 the entire Middle East was shaking when they heard the name of Israel. I want them to shook again and to be frightened, the anti-Israelis, yeah? And the terrorists, shaking when they hear the letters IDF or the State of Israel. And just to complete the full picture, you saw me how I'm determined against terrorism and their supporters. At the same time, I would like to speak to the Arabs in the Arab world, just like me, who want peace and who want partnership and who want coexistence in the Middle East. We're ready. تعالوا عم نستناكم. إحنا بنستنى هذا الإشي. We want that. We want peace here. But make no mistake. Because we want peace, don't look at it as weakness.
Absolutely.
Because if you attack us, we need to make sure that they understand that it will have severe consequences. That is the language of the Middle East.
Absolutely. Well, we are running out of time, but I wanted to finish on a little bit lighter note. I want to do something different. I have here, hidden behind me, 5 photos of individuals or organizations who have been particularly egregious since October 7th.
I was about to say if your photo there, but then you continue the sentence, so you're not there. You're not in that.
In their spread of disinformation, of anti-Semitism, sometimes explicit support for terrorism. And I know you have addressed, I think, all of these figures. But I wanted to get in one sentence, okay? Only one sentence.
That's hard for me.
I know. In one sentence, what your response is to these individuals. So we'll go ahead and get started with the first. Someone you, I believe, know quite well, at least publicly on social media, Rashida Tlaib.
One sentence?
One sentence, that's all you got.
It's gonna be very hard. Okay, we'll go like this. Terror supporter, anti-Israeli, doesn't work for her own district, and above all, she is biased and she has no respect for lives of Arabs in the Middle East, even the Palestinians that how did she describe it? Care about. She doesn't care about them. So if I need to sum it up, Rashida Tlaib does not care about Palestinians.
Okay, pretty good. Little over a sentence, but we'll give it to you.
I'm trying, I swear to God, I'm trying.
Okay, so the next one we have is none other than Bella Hadid, who you have spoken about quite a bit.
I think I have the best sentence for that. If she is what we describe as refugee, I hope the entire world will be a refugee. Because this person lives the life of luxury and you know, villas and cars, and I want to be a refugee.
May we all be refugees like Bella Hadid. Next we have Francesca Albanese, who is the UN Special Rapporteur for Israel and the Palestinian territories, and of course has most recently compared Netanyahu to Hitler. What's your take on this? Your sentence for Francesca?
I'm gonna just say a bunch of words. Anti-Israeli, terror supporter, anti-Semites, idiot, liar. Did I say idiot?
You said that one, yeah.
Well then, idiot.
Okay. Also, I would add unfit to serve, absolutely, in her position. I think this one is one of your favorites.
You know what's the problem? The problem is not just her, it's whoever appointed her.
Absolutely. I mean, we know there's a problem in all of the UN. One of your favorites, Al Jazeera.
I have a sentence for you. Can I do 2 sentences? But it's literally 2 sentences.
All right, fine. We'll give you 2 this time.
2. The first one is that this is the official spokesman of the terrorist organization Hamas. This, Al Jazeera. The second one, I want everybody to understand. I watch Al Jazeera because I want to know what's going on, what they're talking about us, and how they presented the whole case, and to, of course, you know, try as much as possible to expose their lies. But if I was an Arab who only watched Al Jazeera, I would be the most incited person against Israel in the world, with even the option of becoming a terrorist against Israel. This is how bad Al Jazeera is.
I mean, they did throw a birthday party on air for Samir Kuntar, the former Hezbollah terrorist, and they have not stopped since supporting terrorism. Last one, Yahya Sinwar. I know you've done quite a bit to Yahya Sinwar. What's your sentence for him? Or do you even have a sentence?
I have a better than a sentence.
Okay.
There's a sentence that I always say, and actually a song that I always say. When I go visit soldiers, we sing Sinwar ya ibn al-Kalb, which means it's a sort of a curse to him. And in the Arabic world, it's a really humiliating. So beside the fact that this is Ibn Kalb, this is what I have to say about him. And inshallah, you will join Ismail Haniyeh and the rest of those terrorists in hell.
Well, I can't dispute with that. Yoseph Haddad, CEO of Together Vouch for Each Other, and of course, the best fiancé, have to throw that one in. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.